Welcome to David's Take. I'm David Wiedenkeller. Can you really still speak freely? Many countries have regulations on speech. Are we heading in that direction? In New York City, intentionally misgendering someone or uses of the wrong pronoun can result in a fine. Twitter bans and suspensions have grown exponentially in recent years. Governments and social media platforms act as arbiters of allowable speech. As we the people debate and struggle to find a clear line of demarcation on what should and should not be allowed. Should there be any moderation on free speech at all? I don't see this as a black and white issue, but as one with tons of gray and nuance. First, in constructing a position on free speech, I see no better place to start than the quote often attributed to 18th century French writer Voltaire. I may disapprove with what you have to say, but I will fight till death for your right to say it. Which is to say, someone saying something you dislike is not a disqualifier for their right to say it. I may find it rude, inconsiderate, or even outright despicable and evil, but they have the right to speak, as do you or I. The second are the minimal, but as I see it, necessary limits. You cannot threaten or dox others. Doxing is the publishing of personal information of someone on the internet without their permission, like posting the home address of a controversial public figure, normally seen as a tacit threat of, "we know where you live." In the same vein, you cannot call for violence against people or property. Most everything else is fair game. It may not be pretty or polite, but this seems to be the clearest line of demarcation I can make. In an attempt to be logically consistent, I have struggled with fortifying a position of free speech absolutism. But as I cannot in good conscience espouse ideology I don't wholeheartedly believe in, I think I have reached a solution. I have created a spectrum of newspeak versus absolutism, where newspeak is in reference to George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984, in which newspeak is a government-created and controlled language of simplified grammar and restricted vocabulary designed to limit the individual's ability to think and articulate subversive concepts such as personal identity, self-expression, and free will. In absolutism, anything goes. All speech is allowed. I would see myself closer toward absolutism than the center. Once we begin to even marginally chip away at free speech, which is part of the bedrock of America as enshrined in the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights, the ball could get rolling on us quickly, and the Overton window can shrink so dramatically we are living in an echo chamber, our own self-created silos of dogmatism. But much of the current issues surrounding free speech focus on social media companies such as Twitter, which are responsible for much of our public discourse. As a private company, Twitter has and uses the ability to censor with too wide a net for my liking. So does their right to freedom of association, as is stated as the right of association to accept or decline membership based on certain criteria, which they cite as why they're able to ban particular people off their platform, outweigh the rights of individuals to speak freely, albeit on their platform? Do we see Twitter as more of a utility like the phone lines on which people can speak about whatever they like, or do we see them more as a publisher? I would like to see them act more as a utility with the ability to eliminate obscene, illegal content. Do we want big government to come in and tell a private company how to run their business? As a general rule, no. However, in this instance, I would say it's far more complicated than that. With Twitter monopolizing much of the public debate, it practically acts as a public square, and banning someone with obscure ideas seems fraught for abuse. There is no perfect solution here. It is a Hydra paradox in which we think we have stifled one head of the issue and two grow back in its place. There are dangers to removing people from the public discourse. There are also dangers to not removing people from the public discourse. When people are removed from the public discourse, they move to darker corners of the internet where these people seek refuge, allowing benign but crude ideas to fester among fellow miscreants where they are less likely to be challenged on their beliefs and confronted with better. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. The best way to beat bad ideas is with good ones. There's a famous story about a woman by the name of Megan Phelps Roper, who was the granddaughter of the founder of the Westboro Baptist Church, which believes gay people are evil and would protest at veteran funerals to thank God for dead soldiers. Really despicable ideology. She left that church because she was constantly challenged on Twitter by people refuting her radical and hateful ideology. She even met her husband on Twitter in his doing so. If her church's Twitter account, which she ran, had been banned or censored, and she went elsewhere in more hateful parts of the internet, instead of being challenged by fellow Twitter users, it seems unlikely she would have changed her mind. Unfortunately, Twitter and the like have chosen to act like a publisher instead of allowing for more uncensored speech with the previously noted exceptions. So these stories seem like they may be a relic of the past. Giving government or social media platforms more power when people we like are in power seems like a good thing at the time until we realize our team won't always be in power. So limiting the control these institutions have on our lives and public discourse is a safer bet. If you found value in this video and think others might as well, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And checking out this video, as it should help paint a more clear picture of the effects our institutions have on our public discourse. On Thursday, I will be posting a short about Twitter's new CEO and what that means for free speech.